Hi guys, it's Josh, your host from Recovery Talks 24/7. Just to let you guys know that we are sponsored by Money Wellness. They are a company that support you through all of your debt, or if you are needing to communicate with them in some form of way of getting some budgeting ideas, some tips and tricks. They're absolutely amazing at work that they do. They supported myself through my debt problems that I had, and I managed to get on the road of a DRO. And it's been an amazing journey so far. If you want to find out some more information about Money Wellness, then all you need to do is just go on the website, give them a call, and they'll be more than happy to discuss anything or any issues that you may have with finances. So without further ado, I have a lovely guest with me. His name is Oliver, and he is working at a company called Bet No More. He has an amazing story to share with us today about his journey of gambling addiction. We do know that it's quite a big thing that's going on at the moment, and Oliver's made his way down to us to Manchester to do this interview for us today. So how are you doing today, Oliver? You all right?
Yeah, good, thanks to be here.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much for turning up today.
No worries.
It's been very exciting, but also nerve-wracking as well for myself. I'm sure it is for you. So Oliver, how's it? Can you kind of share a bit about your background, your story, you know, where you've come from and what sort of issues you went through?
Yeah, so obviously mine's in reference to the gambling addiction. I think in terms of the gambling addiction, I think I've understood now that I've got that compulsion within me. And for my particular case, it was a case that the interest that I had as a youngster, kind of pre-teen, were sports. And obviously, as we know, sports and betting kind of go hand in hand. And beyond kind of sports, it was a case of I had interest in kind of, you know, casino type things like your blackjack or poker. We'd kind of, when we were at high school, me and the friends would sometimes have like poker nights on a Friday. So I do think back, and I think if I was if I got into smoking, that would have been what the addiction took over as. But mine was kind of, that was the realms of interest that I had. It was the kind of sports, and then obviously when you watch any sport, you can bet on it.
Yeah.
And then kind of your poker nights on weekends or just doing stuff like that. So that's where I think that gambling was the thing that took off for me, because that was intertwined with my main interests, and that's what the kind of compulsion attached itself onto, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. So you've obviously started. What age did you start? Or was this that you started to get involved in gambling?
Definitely pre-teen. I'm a Bolton Wanderers fan, and we used to go.
That's a shame.
Yeah, it is. So thankfully we were there when we were in the Prem, so it was the good days. But we were season ticket holders, so me, my dad and brother, we'd go and we'd all go together and we'd do the standard kind of, you go in the concourse, you put like your £1 on correct result and scorer. That never felt like it was for a desire to win money. It was more, that was fun. But that's the thing that you didn't realise. You were seeing it as fun, but it was enhancing what you were watching. So you then no longer could just watch football for football. Yeah. You had to watch football because you were hoping that particular person scored or that particular score was happening. So even though it was £1, £2, never felt like there was kind of a compulsion to win lots of money. It was more, you were starting to put that in your mindset that you can enhance what you're watching by gambling. So that was probably, like I say, in the high school years, probably pre-teen, teen. But like I said, the high school friend group, we would have like poker nights on Fridays. So again, you're talking like that kind of, those years where you're really developing. Gambling was active for me, and there was never anyone telling me that the potential harms of what could be. No one at school. We had the drugs talk, we had the no sex talk, the alcohol talk. Nobody came in and said gambling might lead to where all these other substances might lead to. So it never felt like something you had to worry about, really.
No, and that's crazy, isn't it? When you've just said there, you know, the usual talks at school would be obviously the drugs, the sex talk, but the gambling, you would think that they would kind of share about that, because obviously it's something to do with finances as well. Yeah. So with your gambling addiction, then, how did this start to impact your life? Did this really have quite a drastic?
Yeah. So as I said, I don't think it really had any impacts or no major impacts when I was at high school, because I did do a paper round, so the money I was kind of betting was mine, but it was pounds, and it wasn't anything, you know, crazy in that sense. But then I think when I went to college was maybe where it started to escalate, because back then there was no Think 25, and I basically had this beard at college, so
Yeah.
I could go into a bookies and no one would really blink twice. So it was kind of me that would go in there. It did tend to be like just go in there to put your weekend accumulator on, but there's football on all the time. There's European games on or whatever in the midweek. So in between the breaks at college, when you get an hour or two where you just got to do something, some people would be going studying, which is a smart thing to do, but kind of I'd be going to the bookies and putting kind of football bet. It was always at that point football bets as well. It was never like the spinning the machines or the fob tees and stuff like that. But that's where it became kind of more prominent that, again, I always kind of worked. At this point, I probably had a kind of more substantial part-time job, so it was my money. Therefore, no one was really seeing, oh, where's it going? It was never massive quantities of money, in terms of hundreds, but it was my disposable income at that time. Was not going out doing stuff with friends or buying clothes. It was putting sports bets on, and like I say, not studying and trying to educate myself. It was getting those gaps to spend money in bookies, really. So that's where I started to lose time. Not so much of a financial impact, but that's where time impact started to kind of progress a little bit.
Yeah. So it sounds like you've obviously, it started off as all a bit of fun, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
And some of the stories that I've heard, very brief amount of people that have gone through some form of gambling. A lot of the people have kind of say that it starts off with a little bit of fun, and it kind of progresses. And people probably sit there and go, oh, it's only a little bit of a bet, but I'm sure with yourself it progressively got worse, like you just said now. So the financial consequences from this now, there must have been coming a point where you're looking at your bank balance, and I'm guessing it's going down quite significantly.
Yeah, so like I said, college, there was no real financial impact just due to the nature of, the money coming in. There wasn't money to spend. I think at that age, you don't really know much about kind of credit or, how to get money other than just having a job. So the real devastation of it began really at uni, where, again, that was the next step in terms of no parental supervision, no one looking over your shoulder, just you in a different city or town. I always worked kind of throughout uni, so again, always had money, but that's where I started to think that, because I was obsessed with sport, any sport, I thought I knew everything about it, and that's where maybe the clog started to turn, that I could use my knowledge of this to, I've got this sussed at. All these idiots who gamble on like whatever, they don't know it. I know football. I know what results are going to happen. I know how many, how this team will do at this ground or whatever. So that's when it really took off, in the sense of, I don't think I ever thought I'll be super rich and stuff, but it more took off in the sense that I can do this as a source of income. And that's just never the case. So basically, fast forwarding through uni, I was there for 4 years, because I went there in the first year. I kind of dropped out of that course and then did a 3-year course from then. Not kind of surprisingly, it was in sports journalism. So sports was always just the main factor. And that's quite a sad thing really about that, is I did really enjoy writing and sports. That seemed like a perfect thing. But I think gambling really killed that dream. So I went to do sports journalism and thought that was going to be a career and stuff. Obviously gambling as well, but I thought that's what I wanted to do in life. But because I spent most of my time at uni gambling or thinking about gambling or trying to work out a plan to make that the main thing in life, main interest in life, it really just destroyed any passion for sports journalism. So when I finished uni, even though I got a 2-1, I did well, I'd done some placements at uni for journalism stuff, I just had zero desire whatsoever to pursue that in any form. And that perhaps that would have happened anyway, but I've got a strong belief that that would have been different. And if I'd have never had a bet before uni and not at uni, I'd perhaps now be doing some form of sports journalism. But the financial impact really went off at uni when, like I say, I was now betting kind of probably more like every day, not on a weekend, not on a few times a week, probably every day, thinking about it most of the time. In the last year at uni, it was just me and my partner, because our friends who we'd met on the first year had all kind of graduated in the third year and gone on, so just me and her, so we had a lot more. And she was doing the smart thing and concentrating on the dissertation, and she was at the library a lot and working hard, and I was just trying to figure out a at this particular time, I was trying to figure out this roulette system. I thought I had it sorted on the roulette. So the real heartache there with that one was I thought I'd figured out a system, and I'd done it for a few days you could do it on this particular website with fake money first, and it had worked. If that hadn't worked, perhaps I'd have realised it was a mistake, but because my little system had worked, I then put real money into it, and because this particular system needed quite a large upfront of capital, and I'm a poor student and I have that, I actually took out a bank loan to use that to fund the gambling, and obviously that didn't really take too long before that entire lot of money was gone. But it was quite scary how easy that was, to be honest with you. It was no face-to-face meetings, just with my bank provider at the time, probably 10 to 15 clicks online. Obviously, I had a part-time job, so I could provide a pay slip of proof of being able to pay it back. But that was it, and it was in my account, I think, the next day, and it was $8,000, so it's a large chunk of money for someone. And the reasons that I put on, because you can't put reason for loan to make it rich gambling. So the reason that I put on was home renovation, and I do think back, I don't blame the bank whatsoever because it's me, but my address, all my stuff I was registered to was a uni flat. I think it would have taken someone about 5 seconds to realise that no one spends $8,000 renovating a uni flat that you're moving out of in a few months' time. So I think it was super easy to do, and never at this point does anyone know I'm doing this. I'm not talking to people. I'm not seeing anything about the harms of gambling, and at this point I definitely didn't think I was addicted. I thought I was just smart. I thought I knew something that you all didn't know about. Here's how to get easy money kind of thing. So that was probably the first real scary point when I thought, once that money had gone, I thought, am I doing something different here to everyone else? Is this not actually how you're supposed to be, cracking on with life?
Yeah. So you've basically started off as a journey. So you've given us a brief outline, obviously, how you started. It was a little bit of fun. You've gone to football. You've watching football, putting a little bet on here and there. It's then obviously progressed on to now, you think you know how you're gonna win. And I could imagine, obviously, especially there would have been times you did win, and obviously that feeling you must have got this like euphoric feeling of like, I've won and I'm gonna keep going. And then you've now gone on to the point of you've got a bank loan out. They don't even realise you're in a uni flat. They've given you $8,000 and you're using that. And that's crazy, and it, like you said, it's mental how, like, within 5 seconds they've just given it to you, and somebody would have just had to look at that and go click, I'll agree with that for them to have it. So what would some of your emotional, psychological feelings that you was experiencing in regards to all of this? Was you getting quite secluded with doing this?
So for uni, at uni I would say it really took off flying, obviously, where it became daily, and that was my thoughts, and that was all that stuff, and the financial harm. I was dating someone the entire time at uni, and I think in that last year we definitely kind of separated in terms of, she did the smart thing in terms of putting her head in the books and doing dissertation stuff, and my head went into figuring out how to make it rich on this roulette system. And then when that failed, doubling down on, I know football, so I'll be able to make money off that. So I think there was definitely using it as the form of escapism, really, not knowing what to do with life, what to do after uni, what holds for the future. So it was easier to just bury your head and go, well, just think about the next bet, or just bury your head in terms of the gambling sense. Like, I used to make Excel docs full of, like, in the football betting sense, I used to make Excel docs of, like, how many corners Arsenal will get against away from home or at home, so that I knew. To what you say, my football betting was there's never a safe bet, but it was very much like put a lot of money on something with very, very low odds and build that slowly. So I think the damage was that 99% of the time it probably won, and you saw what you thought was an achievable feat happening. It's only then when you lost one, because sometimes some anomaly is going to happen.
Yeah.
Some game's going to have no corners or something, or you know, something crazy is going to go on. When you lose that one, I think the difference in maybe where the addiction mind is different to someone else is that you lose a bet and go, that's a bit crap, but I'll go cook tea or I'll move on with life. Whereas I can win 100 bets, lose the one, and suddenly you have to chase that loss instantly, and you have to do anything and everything. Everything you thought of previously goes out the window, and you start throwing money at anything and everything because you need that instant return of, right, now everything's safe. And then when that all goes, you just start again, kind of next payday cycle, really. So yeah, a lot of kind of escapism really at that point, and kind of confusion really, I would say.
Yeah, and I totally agree. Like, you know, through like my own sort of personal experience is when you win something, you get this absolute buzz. And I know when I won every single time, it was really exciting. But then stupidly, I'll pull it all back in again because I'll just want to win more. Because I'll think I'm going to be a multi-millionaire, and it never happened. And it still hasn't happened because I just don't do it anymore because I'm like, what's the point? But I totally, you know, relate with you what you're saying, and I'm sure there's people that are listening right now that are going to go, oh my God, that's what I'm doing right now, and I didn't realize that's where it's going to lead me. And it's great how you've just, you know, explained what it's done for you, you know, and where it led you. So when was the sort of turning point for yourself when you was like, right, do you know what, I need to sort this out, I need help?
There's been a few. I think the first one where I truly admitted to myself that I do have some deep problem that isn't normal to everyone else was that, to a point, you know, years after uni and stuff, where more bank loans have been taken out, and financial harms was ridiculous at that point, but still wasn't ready to admit a problem. I probably spent about 4 hours crafting the perfect bet to put on for this particular football match that night, and it won, but it won at half time. It was that kind of, you know, it worked out that well, apparently, that the bet came in at half time and I won a good chunk of money. And that should have been like brilliant, you know, day done. Let's use that money for more bets, whatever. But I was genuinely devastated. And I think then it realised that this isn't necessarily about money. It's about staying in the bubble of gambling. Because when the bet had come in, there's no need to watch the match now. The bet's done, so we're finished. So I think when that happened, I thought I'd be elated now, but I truly feel lost. I don't know what to do. And that was when it was a case of, this probably isn't how everyone else is gambling, because I wasn't talking to people, friend groups and stuff, people gamble, that's the nature of having, not to stereotype, but if you've got male friends that like sport, gambling's discussed, if we're being frank. So people gambled and stuff, but I thought, I'm definitely doing this differently. And I think at that point was when I'd probably Googled some stuff and thought, what can I do? But nothing really stood out, and the thought was very fleeting, and probably gambled more stuff that night. There was a few times where you kind of reach out and go, this is it. And I consider myself, considered myself kind of, I don't know what the right terminology is, but I was never someone that was without money. So I never missed a bill, despite having an addiction and never having money for anything else. Never missed a bill. Rent was always paid, you know, phone contracts got paid. The first time that I genuinely reached out properly to anyone was when, and I don't know why it particularly happened, but one particular night, I used to get paid like at 10 p.m. the day before technically payday. And when I woke up, well, when I not woke up because I was awake all the night, but when work started that morning, there was nothing in the account. I'd literally spent the entire thing that night, and that was new to me because I was responsible isn't the word, but normally I would say, right, that has to be done for bills. Everything else, I won't go on holidays, get clothes, eat nice stuff, I'll just gamble. But the bills were normally done. So this was the first, and I thought, right, well, you kind of have two options now. You're going to have to tell someone what's going on because you need to be bailed out, because you can't just not pay for things, or we go down the route of, you know, ending your life. So in this particular case, you know, I went down the route of getting that help. So I went to my parents and just kind of blurted everything out to them in a huge, horrible, snotty, crying mess. And I thought, genuinely deep down, that would have been, this was my day one, this is the redemption, this is the arc, here's where life gets better. It's only kind of reflecting back that you realise, I didn't want to stop. I wasn't ready for a recovery, didn't want that to happen. I just had no choice, in my opinion, in my mind. So obviously as soon as kind of that died down, that was like in November. So as soon as Christmas, December, Boxing Day, New Year's, footballs everywhere in the Christmas.
So you were saying about at the Christmas time now, that's when the penny dropped. You said that term.
Yeah. So obviously Christmas came and sport, football galore. So I was gambling. So I couldn't gamble in the same sense because I'd put the blocks in place and my money was being held by parents. So we were doing the kind of financial block, but it was, there's no block that's 100% bulletproof, and that kind of enabled. So I wasn't gambling to the same harms, but for the next kind of 18 months or so, I was just gambling in bookies every now and again, not every day, not how it used to be, spending like most of your day thinking about it or doing it. But then it's just that moment really where you were living that version of life, and it was just a case of this is no better. I'm not having the same financial harm or stuff like that, but mental health, as I've not looked at it, this is still the same, probably worse. This version of life doesn't seem to be better, even though societally the things I have now might seem better. So the penny dropped really when it was a case of, well, what needs to happen, because this isn't the case. And then like we said, the penny dropped when I really was honest with myself and said, you have a mental illness. And it wasn't to put a label on it and say I'm mentally ill so I can behave how I want, or I can excuse all behaviours because I have this label. It was just a case of me being honest with me and saying I have a mental illness, and no matter what happens in life regarding gambling, that's something that you need to tackle, because you're never going to have what you want in life. You're never going to be truly happy if your mental illness just grows and grows and grows, and it will at some point be the cause of why you're not here anymore. So I think that was the real turning point. That was May 2022, where nothing significantly had happened that particular day. I had bet on the Sunday, but I hadn't lost a major amount. I can't lose major amounts because of the blocks I had in place and stuff, but it was no moment. Me and my mum, who's my parents are my main support source in this, and I was single at the time and stuff, and we talk quite regularly. And I think a mother's intuition kind of knows. So everyone at GA, everyone in my support circle, they would have assumed I was gamble free since probably Christmas time or Jan time, 2020. But I just came out. I think she probably knew, but that particular day in May, on Monday, I just phoned and said, yeah, look, here's the truth. And it was very humbling to go back to the GA room as well and basically tell everyone there, look, I've been lying to you effectively for a long time, and here's the full truth. And I think that just genuine, complete honesty and transparency is for me anyway, the only way I can really have that sustained recovery, is just being honest with everyone and myself.
And I think that's a powerful thing as well. Everyone that's listening is, to be able to admit that you had a problem, being able to admit that, you had some form of a mental health problem going on right there. To admit that's massive, and for men and for women, it's a big thing just to admit that you've got a problem. I've been there myself, I get it. But I'm from what I heard from your story, you've named the sucker. When you name and shame it, there is that sort of relief, that feeling of like, I've been able to get it out there. And it isn't that bad when you just talk. It isn't, we build up this thing in our mind where this anxiety feeling of like, oh, if I say it, I feel shameful and that. But from your story alone, I got that, you just got that little bit of freedom there. And you went on this journey to get the right support and the help. And obviously your mum's listening, so we'll say hi to your mum, who's been a great, support network. So you've had a great support network. You're on the mend now, let's say. You're in recovery now. So in your recovery journey, how's it been for you so far? What have you been doing in your recovery?
So one of the parts of kind of having the realization was, what do you want to do with life? I think when I first entered recovery in like November 2019, it was just a case of trying to not gamble for as long as possible and see what happens, and that there was no real well thought out approach. Or obviously I didn't even want to really stop gambling, to be brutally honest. But I think ever since the penny dropped and it was like, right, mentally ill, let's tackle that. That was the first protocol, was let's see what we can do with the mental health. Where do we need to go? So I went to GP, got the advice and kind of support from them. And it was, what do you want to do with life? I hadn't really had to ever think, what do I want to do with life? Because gambling was life. So that was that was my great love was gambling. That was didn't need to worry about a career, because gambling would be the supplemental income kind of thing, or didn't have to worry about hobbies because gambling was the hobby. So just really sat down and thought deeply about that, and looking at the CV, my expertise was gambling. So as funny as that might sound, it was a case of, well, this is what you're an expert in, so how can we help others go, how can we support others that are going through what you're going through and have been through and stuff like that. So trying to work for a charity kind of supporting gambling harms was the obvious go-to, and there was an opening at Bet No More for an administrator. So I have had no previous charity work or previous like support work, so I couldn't obviously go in straight away as someone offering support or anything like that. But I joined as an administrator, and then after a year or so, the charity Bet No More has a service called Peer Aid, which is what I'm the administrator for, and we do peer support. So it's people with lived experience, so it's people like myself who've got lived experience and are in recovery of at least a minimum of 1 year, then going supporting people who are much earlier in that kind of recovery journey, or people still, deciding if recovery is fully for them and stuff like that, but supporting them in the form of like one-to-one sessions on Zoom, because it's 2024 and everything nowadays on Zoom.
On Zoom,
so I trained up to be that, kind of got my qualification to be a peer supporter, and now I've been doing that for a few months. Obviously still an administrator with the charity, but do that as kind of on the side or volunteer or whatever you want to class it as. But yeah, that's been going really well, and I think it's massive for recovery to actually learn about the addiction. Not necessarily, well, for my experience, it really helped to learn more about why my brain perhaps worked a certain way, and to learn more about addiction, and to not, to realise that I'm not a bad guy because I got addicted to it, and there were probably moments where things could have been different, but wholly deep down, I'm not a bad guy, and it can affect anyone. It's not racist, it's not sexist, it's not homophobic. It'll get anyone it wants if that opportunity arises. So yeah, enjoying enjoying being in this space and doing the peer sport, really.
Yeah, and it's amazing at what you're doing now, supporting other people that are maybe going through some problems with gambling, and you being able to come alongside them, be like sort of a form of a peer mentor towards them as well. It's amazing being able to give back, because I'm sure you look at these people and you can relate to them, and you can go, do you know what, I was like that, and it must encourage you to keep doing what you're doing, because you must be a massive support to them. So in regards to finishing this up now, so like what sort of advice would you give to someone that may be listening right now, that is struggling, that is maybe going through what you've gone through, or they may be going through it worse? What advice would you give someone today?
I would say that you're truly not alone. No matter how alone you feel, you're not alone. And such a powerful thing to get out of it will just be being completely open, honest and transparent with somebody, whoever that is. If you can be with family and friends, great. If it has to be someone who's like a support worker or something, doesn't matter. Just someone who you trust, has your best interest at heart. Be completely open and honest, because they're not going to judge you. There's such a stigma attached to this, and it's the reason why so many of us go so long in the harms, is because we're so afraid to say something and be judged. But most of the time, if you're telling someone who's got your best interest at heart, they're going to have your best interest at heart, and they're going to support you, and they're going to help you through it. And don't be afraid to have that honesty. Like, it's very humbling to go back to the GA room and tell them all I've lied to them and stuff, and think they're going to tell me I can't go back ever again. But they don't. They come in with open arms and say it's a journey. It's not going to happen overnight. And I think if you tell someone that and have that complete, honest, open transparency, you're just going to feel like a weight's lifted off your shoulders.
Yeah, that's amazing, Oliver. And Oliver, to finish off, how long have you been free from obviously all gambling?
just over 2 years now.
Fantastic. That is absolutely amazing. And, you know, everyone that's at home, thank you so much for listening today. Oliver, thank you so much for coming in and being able to share your story of, you know, giving a bit of strength and hope. It's been an absolute pleasure to hear your story. You've been a great encouragement to myself, and I know for a fact you're going to be a great encouragement for others that may be listening, and definitely, hopefully, one person will be able to get some support from your story. Guys, if you want to know any more information about Bet No More, what I'll do is I'll get some more information about this company and get it shared out to you guys. If you do have any more questions, or if you'd like to get in contact, then what I'll do is I'll put the contact details of Bet No More on there as well. And then you can reach out and try and ask any questions you have about any form of gambling. So yeah, thank you again, Oliver. Cheers.
No worries. Thank you.